This review's audio is being recorded with the Rode Wireless Go 2 going straight into my Sony a7S III, including this voiceover, which is actually going into my computer, because yes, that is a feature to use it as a USB microphone. As per usual, only gain and a limiter is added, so you can hear the raw performance of this microphone. Tilder! What is this? This is the Rode Go Wireless 2. Comes in at approximately $299. It's a 2 transmitter to 1 receiver system. You can go between stereo split and mono mode. There's even a safety track mode. Each transmitter can actually record internally so that you'll never lose audio again during a shoot. If you don't turn on the internal recording, the battery can last up to 7 hours. If you do turn on the internal recording and choose compressed mode, you'll get up to 6 hours and 55 minutes and 6 hours and 30 minutes with uncompressed. Its no line of sight performance has drastically improved to normal filming distances. 30 feet, 1, 2, 3, 40 feet, 1, 2, 3, 50 feet. If you are using 2 Rode Wireless Go 2s, make sure the receivers are as far away from each other as possible to get the best possible signal. Should you mix the old Rode Go with the new Rode Go? No, because the old one is going to crap out first. Does it work up to 600 feet? Yep. This is 600 feet away with line of sight. I measured the latency to be just under 7 milliseconds. The wind muff features a new twist lock design so that it'll never pop off. How does it sound against the competition?
What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker.
Do I recommend it? No matter if you're a beginner or looking to upgrade your current budget wireless audio system, definitely yes. The fact that there's internal recording as well as firmware updates, this essentially makes the Rode Wireless Go 2 relevant for years to come and a worthy investment.
Done! Roll that intro!
What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're going to find out whether or not the Rode Wireless Go version 2 is going to be the right solution for you and your overall filmmaking kit. And I want to thank Rode for not just sending me one, but they actually sent me 2 review units for this video. So yes, I'm definitely going to test this out even further for people that are thinking about getting 2 full units. Now, I do need to remind you that you're currently listening to the built-in microphone. I am in a non-sound treated room. There is literally a wall 4 feet away from me, completely bare. Not only that, there is a Godox SL60 with a fan that I can audibly hear, and it's basically, the fan is actually pointing towards me through the softbox. So if I don't talk for a little bit, this is how the Rode Go 2 does in terms of ambient noises. Okay, so now you're listening to the Rode Wireless Go 2 going into my Deity W Lav mic. And this is basically because I don't have a Rode Lavalier Go. However, they're both about the same price point, and they're basically that lower tier professional lavalier mic at about $80 to $100 some. So I figured this is close enough, and this is what it sounds like in this specific situation. Okay, I'm actually going to keep this on for this talking portion, and then I'll go over to the built-in mic later so that you can kind of hear what this does in a more talking head fashion. So the major thing is this is the successor to the wildly popular Rode Go. And coming in at $100 more at $299 versus $199, I think that extra $100 is way more than justified, so let's get to it. For the $299, you are going to get 2 transmitters to 1 receiver, which is something that a lot of people really hoped that Rode would do, and they did. You're also going to get 3 awesome wind muffs, as well as 3 USB-C to USB-A cables, which is great so you can charge everything in one package. And they also give you a carrying pouch, followed by the more updated aux cord. Now, the original one was kind of a coil. This one, you can kind of mold it and fold it. And that way, when you're trying to manage your wires, it's much easier than the rigid coil version.
Now, in terms of the build, it's pretty much exactly the same with maybe a couple additions. So the transmitter and the receiver size is exactly the same as the previous RØDE Go. And yes, if you wear it on a loose shirt and you happen to flop around, it will do that flippy thing. They haven't actually changed the weight distribution. So if you're going to want to use it as a clip-on mic, just know that that is still a thing. In terms of the receiver, it's very similar. We do have one extra button here, and that's simply because if you want to go between stereo and mono mode, you're going to need to hold down the two buttons, and that way you can switch between the two modes. Now, the left button over here is just your gain, your dB settings, and then on the right, if you press it, it's going to basically cycle through between transmitter 1 and transmitter 2, because should you want to mute one of them, you can. Now, if you hold the button longer, it's going to go into a pairing mode to basically pair to another transmitter. So that is basically the receiver in a nutshell. In terms of the transmitter, there's really no difference here except for one very awesome thing, and that is the win muff attachment method. Now you have this little twist lock mechanism, basically making sure that win muff never pops off ever again like the original RØDE Go. So the main headline feature of the RØDE Wireless Go 2 is the fact that it has internal recordings on the transmitters independently. This is literally something that I talked about in my first review of the RØDE Wireless Go. What if you added a micro SD card into the transmitter so that it's recording indefinitely all day long? And I'm so happy that RØDE incorporated this, because now if you happen to drop signal or what have you, you have an internal recording that you can go to, and therefore you're not left without audio. Now, to access this internal recording, you have to go through the RØDE Central app on your laptop or a computer for Mac and Windows. So I'm going to talk about the app super quick, and then we'll talk about the internal recording.
One of the coolest things about the RØDE Wireless Go is the fact that you can actually use it as a USB microphone if you plug in the receiver to your computer. In fact, you're listening to it right now. So basically, once you turn everything on and plug it in, you go to your sound preferences or sound settings, go to input, and bingo, there we are, the RØDE Wireless Go 2. Simply select it, and now you are using it as a USB microphone. So basically for Skype, Zoom calls, what have you. Awesome, awesome feature. While I have you here, let's walk through the app super quick. So if you click on the transmitter, this is where all your internal recordings are. Simply click on a file, you'll be presented with a waveform. You can actually preview it with the play button if you want to. And we also have these little flag icons going backwards and forwards. And simply, if we hit forward, we'll see a flag. Now, you can actually do something in the receiver to plant this flag here if you want to basically plant flags in between takes. But generally speaking, this flag means that the transmitter believes that the signal dropped over here. And of course, you can preview it to see if that is actually the case when you are editing. Now, in the very first iteration of the app, there was an extra button here that allows us to highlight this section and export it. They've taken that away. I'm not sure why, but hopefully they bring it back. Otherwise, to export, simply click on the export button, and I've already tried to rename this, but yes, you can actually rename it if you want to. And you can choose what format you want to export it in, what sample rate, and what bit rate. All right, one quick thing I want to dispel here is this 32-bit float idea. Yes, I really wish that you could record internally at 32-bit float, but that is not the case. You're already recording in a non-32-bit float format, which means everything over here is already clipped going into the internal recording. What's happening here is they're upsampling it to 32-bit float if that is your project file. I guess it just makes it easier to work with. So no, you're not actually going to magically recover a clipped audio file. Next, you can click on this little gear icon, which basically allows you to tell the transmitter, do you want it to record something the moment it turns on and connects to the receiver, or do you just want to use it as a normal transmitter. For now, I'm going to leave this off because I don't necessarily need an internal recording for what I'm doing right now. Next, there is a little mute lock. Basically, it makes it so that the transmitter doesn't accidentally mute on its own should someone press the button. Next, we have the recording quality here. You can choose compressed and uncompressed. And then lastly, we have this little trash can button here that will wipe everything clean and reformat. I kind of hope that RØDE in the future with the app, in terms of its updates, they'll allow you to just select one that you don't want and delete it that way. But I could see why they didn't do that, because generally speaking, you're probably already exporting what you want, and then you can delete the rest. Next, let's go over to the receiver because this is where a lot of features are. We have the backlight on and off here. It's pretty self-explanatory. What I love is the gain mode, because in the original RØDE Go, you only had 3. You had low, medium, and high, and sometimes the low was still very loud for certain cameras. So what they've done is you can actually go into a fine gain mode, and therefore you can go down in -3 dB increments all the way down to -30. This is what I like the most, and this is what I leave it at, because I feel like you always want to have a fine tune of your output, no matter what recorder you're going into or camera. Next, we have the mode selection here. Split mode is probably what you're going to be in all the time, but if you want to activate the safety channel, you have to be in merge mode for that to even be an option. And that's simply because the RØDE can't output 4 channels of safety tracks. It can only output 2 channels, one at your set gain value, and then one in the safety channel value. Next, you have the little O button. You can tell it to activate the backlight if you want it to go dim or stay bright the whole time, or you can change it so that it activates a marker. So basically, in between takes or in between scenes, instead of having multiple files, you can just add little markers here so you know what's actually going on. Last but not least, there are refresh buttons for the receiver and transmitter so that you can sync up the time of whatever, the device you're in, and hopefully that syncs up with your camera as well. And that's pretty much it as far as the app goes. If RØDE ever issues out a firmware update, basically the moment you plug in your receiver, it's going to tell you as such, and therefore you can update the transmitter and receiver to the latest firmware. So this app is basically the best thing RØDE could have possibly done, because they can make sure that the longevity of this product can stay relevant, maybe even possibly add new features depending on the hardware, not limitations, but whether the hardware can actually handle it. Now, I do hope that in the future they make a mobile version of this app. In fact, they're probably doing it. And the reason is because of the certain things that you have to go through the app to turn on or turn off. All right, guys, and without further ado, let's get to what you all probably came here for, is the tests. We're gonna start with the audio test. And remember, I am going through this makeshift sound box, trying to deaden the sound as much as I can so that you're gonna hear it in its natural state, instead of it being in some sort of a reverberant room like this. And of course, because this is a wireless audio system, I am doing a -12 dB calibration through my GH5. Therefore, every test I ever do are being placed in the exact same stress. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. You done messed up, Aaron! 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 What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. You done messed up, Aaron! 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 I'm pretty sure you guys want this. How does the RØDE Wireless Go 2 match up against the RØDE Wireless Go 1 and other popular 2.4 GHz systems? Well, here's what they sound like.
What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker.
Alright guys, we're going to start off nice and easy with the distance test. This is only one transmitter going currently. And basically I'm going to change my test a little bit here, okay? This is a new setting because this thing is rated to go up to 200 meters or 600 feet away. So probably moving forward, this is probably where I'm going to be testing all the wireless mics just to keep things consistent. And I'm assuming more people are going to try to get up to 600 feet anyways. Now, the setting is different. It's not as wide open, kind of, because obviously you can see a building way back there. There is a stadium to my right about 300 feet away, just like bleachers, but it shouldn't really affect the signal. And then there's some houses over there 200 feet away, and then nothing but brush and grass behind the camera, okay? So that is the setting I'm currently in. I'm also changing things up a little bit here. I'm going to be in no line of sight for approximately 100 feet just to kind of give you guys an idea of what happens in that range. And then after that, I'm going to be in line of sight for the rest of it, turning around every 50 feet or so, just to see if we do get a little bit more. But chances are, probably not. Anyways, let's get started. And 1, 2, 3, 10 feet. 1, 2, 3, 20 feet. 1, 2, 3, 30 feet. 1, 2, 3, 40 feet. 1, 2, 3, 50 feet. This is 50 feet away with no line of sight. As I turn around here, this is 50 feet with line of sight, so let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 60. 1, 2, 3, 70. 1, 2, 3, 80. 1, 2, 3, 90. 1, 2, 3, 100. 100 feet away with no line of sight. As I turn around here, this is 100 feet with line of sight. So now we're going to stay in line of sight for pretty much the rest of it, all right? 1, 2, 3, 110, 1, 2, 3, 120, 1, 2, 3, 130, 1, 2, 3, 140, 1, 2, 3, 150. And this is now no line of sight at 150. And this is back with line of sight. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 160, 1, 2, 3, 170, 1, 2, 3, 180, 1, 2, 3, 190, 1, 2, 3, 200 feet away with line of sight. As I bring it over here, no line of sight. All right, let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 210, 1, 2, 3, 220, 1, 2, 3, 230, 1, 2, 3, 240, 1, 2, 3, 250. This is 250 feet away with line of sight. As I bring the microphone in, 250 with no line of sight. Now we are back, and 1, 2, 3, 260, 1, 2, 3, 270, 1, 2, 3, 280, 1, 2, 3, 290, 1, 2, 3, 300 feet away with line of sight. And then I bring it here, 300 feet, line of sight. All right, let's go for it. I'm just going to stay in line of sight at this point because you're not going to be doing no line of sight up past this way anyways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and
This is 400 feet away with line of sight. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. This is 500 feet with line of sight. Let's continue to the last 600. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. And this is 600 feet away with line of sight. Now there is a building over there about another 150 feet away. So if you can hear me, that's probably why, maybe. All right, guys, so this is the dual transmitter test on the Rode Wireless Go. So here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 10 feet. 1, 2, 3, 20 feet. 1, 2, 3, 30 feet. 1, 2, 3, 40 feet. 1, 2, 3, 50. This is 50 feet away with no line of sight. And this is 50 feet away with line of sight. Now let's continue on. 1, 2, 3, 60. 1, 2, 3, 70. 1, 2, 3, 80. 1, 2, 3, 90. 1, 2, 3, 100. This is 100 feet away with no line of sight. This is 100 feet away with line of sight. Let's continue on, this time with line of sight. And 1, 2, 3, 110, 1, 2, 3, 120, 1, 2, 3, 130, 1, 2, 3, 140, 1, 2, 3, 150. 150 feet away with line of sight. 150 feet away with no line of sight. And let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 160, 1, 2, 3, 170, 1, 2, 3, 180, 1, 2, 3, 190, 1, 2, 3, 200. 200 feet away with no line of, or with line of sight. And then this is 200 feet away with no line of sight. Let's continue on. 1, 2, 3, 210, 1, 2, 3, 220, 1, 2, 3, 230, 1, 2, 3, 240, 1, 2, 3, 250. 250 feet away with line of sight. This is 250 feet away with no line of sight. Let's continue on to 300. 1, 2, 3, 260, 1, 2, 3, 270, 1, 2, 3, 280, 1, 2, 3, 290, 1, 2, 3, 300 feet with line of sight. And then this is 300 feet with no line of sight. All right, now you're going to stay in line of sight the entire time all the way to 600 feet. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. This is 400 feet with line of sight. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. This is 500 feet away with line of sight. Let's continue on to the last 600. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. And this is 600 feet away with line of sight. And that is with 2 transmitters going at the same time.
Okay, because Rode actually sent me 2 of these units, I'm going to take this opportunity to do a distance test with both units going at the same time. Because maybe you want to buy 2 units because you want 4 channels of audio. Or maybe you're a sound person and you want to be able to run 4 channels of audio in your audio bag and therefore lob everybody up.
Now, the results are going to be very interesting for you because the first time I conducted the test, the receivers were in this configuration. They were approximately 3 to 4 inches apart. 2 channels are going into my Sony ZV-1, and the other 2 channels, 3 and 4, are going into my GH5. What I found out was channels 3 and 4, it basically cut out a little bit early, and this is what it sounded like.
1, 2, 3, 10 feet. 1, 2, 3, 20 feet. 1, 2, 3, 30 feet. 1, 2, 3, 40 feet. 1, 2, 3, 50 feet. This is 50 feet away with no line of sight. This is 50 feet away with line of sight.
So after I heard that, I was like, okay, what happens if you have the receivers a little bit further apart? So I rigged it up this way. So now the receivers are approximately 10 inches apart. And this is what you can expect in terms of the full distance test. So basically what I'm saying is make sure the receivers are far apart. And this is the kind of results you can get.
1, 2, 3, 10 feet. 1, 2, 3, 20 feet. 1, 2, 3, 30 feet. 1, 2, 3, 40 feet. 1, 2, 3, 50 feet. This is 50 feet away with no line of sight. This is 50 feet away with line of sight. And let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 60. 1, 2, 3, 70. 1, 2, 3, 80. 1, 2, 3, 90. 1, 2, 3, 100. This is 100 feet away with no line of sight. This is 100 feet with line of sight. Now we're going to actually continue within line of sight because I don't think you're going to be filming with no line of sight past 100 feet anyways, all right? 1, 2, 3, 110, 1, 2, 3, 120, 1, 2, 3, 130, 1, 2, 3, 140, 1, 2, 3, 150 feet away with line of sight, 150 feet away with no line of sight. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 160, 1, 2, 3, 170, 1, 2, 3, 180, 1, 2, 3, 190, 1, 2, 3, 200 feet away with line of sight, 200 feet away with no line of sight. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 210, 1, 2, 3, 220, 1, 2, 3, 230, 1, 2, 3, 240, 1, 2, 3, 250 with line of sight, 250 with no line of sight. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 260, 1, 2, 3, 270, 1, 2, 3, 280, 1, 2, 3, 290, 1, 2, 3, 300 feet away with line of sight, 300 feet away with no line of sight. Now we're going to go in really big chunks with line of sight. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. This is 400 feet away with line of sight. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. This is 500 feet away with line of sight. Let's go for the last bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. This is 600 feet away with line of sight.
All right, we have even more distance tests here. So now I'm going to test one Rode Wireless Go 2 with 2 transmitters going and one original Rode Wireless Go, because maybe you still have it and you're going to wonder, can you actually merge the 2 systems together? And this is what the test results showed.
1, 2, 3, 10 feet. 1, 2, 20, 2, 3, 4 feet. 2, 3, 50 feet away with no line of sight. This is 50 feet away with line of sight. And let's continue. 1, 2.
Based on the remainder of the test, you're really only good up to 50 feet within line of sight in this configuration. Any further, and you will get pretty choppy audio. All right, we're going full throttle here. You have one set of Rode Wireless Go 2s. Both transmitters are going, and on the other side, you have two original Rode Wireless Go's, because maybe that's what you have. And this is what happens if you're operating all the systems together. And yes, I actually had all the receivers as far apart as possible, trying to see if I can get a better signal, because if they are close together, forget it. 1, 2, 3, 10 feet. 1, 2, 20, 3, 40 feet. 1, 3. The first generation Rode Go's basically completely died at 10 feet, and at this point, you might as well just sell those and get yourself two Rode Wireless Go 2 units. And this is just for reference. If you have only one Rode Wireless Go, this is what you can expect in the exact same no line of sight tests. Now keep in mind, I actually have the receiver flipped vertically, and that's because when you're operating solo and you have it vertically, you can actually get a stronger signal, and this is what you get in terms of no line of sight. All right, guys, I have the original Rode Wireless Go here because we need to make sure this test is fair in the same conditions, in the same location, because the other place I tested was not here. So here we go. No line of sight. 1, 2, 3, 10. 1, 2, 3, 20 feet. 1, 2, 3, 30 feet. 1, 2, 3, 40 feet. 1, 2, 3, 50 feet. 50 feet away with no line of sight. As I turn around here, this is 50 feet with line of sight. I'm sure we're good here. So 1, 2, 3, 60. 1, 2, 3, 70. 1, 2, 3, 80. 1, 2, 3, 90. 1, 3, 100. This is 100 feet away with no line of sight. As I turn around here, this is 100 feet with line of sight. I'm sure we're good. And 1, 2, 3, 110. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, this is an indoor distance test, and here I go out of the office into the adjacent room. Again, these are all just wooden walls around here as I make my way back the other way, past a bunch of walls, again, all mainly wood. Make our way past the kitchen and out into the freezing cold. Again, this is usually approximately where the thing dies. And I'll make my way just a little bit further. Wow, it is really cold.
All right, so now you're going to be listening to the radio frequency interference test, and I have this basically plugged into a Rode Video Mic NTG, and this is what it sounded like. Now you can kind of sort of hear a little bit of it when the transmitter was up against the tip of the barrel, but let's be honest, that's probably not how you're going to actually be using it. If anything, it might be further away if it's on a boom pole. And so when I placed it up against the MC1, which is basically like a Rode Video Mic knockoff, this is what it sounded like. Now I do have a theory that because this MC1 doesn't have its own internal battery, the transmitter is actually having to send power over there, and therefore because of either poor shielding inside or what have you, that's probably why you're getting all that sound. But to be on the safe side, I do have a 6-foot shielded cable, and this is what it sounds like when you have the transmitter much further away going through that cable. For the battery test, I had the transmitters placed approximately 20 feet away through a couple walls and a fan blowing at it the entire time. The internal recording was not on. And basically, I got approximately 6 hours and 55 minutes, and one transmitter lasted for 7 hours. With internal recording activated, one transmitter was recording compressed, one was recording uncompressed. The compressed one actually lasted for 6 hours and 50 minutes, which is pretty good. The uncompressed lasted for 6 hours and 30 minutes, which is also not that bad.
For the latency test, I used a stereo splitter in my GH5. One channel has the Rode Video Mic NTG, and the second channel has the Rode Wireless Go 2. And basically, I have this going together, I snap my fingers a couple times, and when you look at the waveform, this is the latency you get out of the Rode Wireless Go 2. I measured it to be just slightly under 7 milliseconds. The next thing you're going to see is the internal audio drift test. Now, when I tested the LensGo 328C, it had severe audio drift. In fact, within 2 minutes, you were done. It was so far off. But when I did about 5.5 minutes with the Rode Wireless Go 2, and I took a look at the spike over here, they pretty much lined up. If you're going to be super nitpicky, I would say it's like a millisecond off, so it's very unnoticeable. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, if you're recording for an hour, maybe you might see a little difference, but that's assuming that you literally lost contact with your receiver and transmitter for a full hour. So basically what I'm also trying to say is it's probably not worth worrying about. Before we go to the bottom line, let's give this Rode Wireless Go 2 my YouTube audio treatment. Alright guys, with all the tests out of the way, what is the bottom line here? Is the Rode Wireless Go 2 all the ribbits, and do I actually recommend it for your overall filmmaking kit? As of early 2021, check the upload date if you need clarification. It's a yes, yes, and a yes, 100%. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you're a prosumer, yes. And I'm gonna break this down into 3 main questions and points that you need to consider. And I'm gonna go in kind of a weird order. I might be jumping back and forth between the reasons of number 3. So I'm really sorry if this is gonna sound rambly, but you really need to hear me out because seriously, Rode Wireless Go 2 completely destroyed the competition with their 2nd generation. So the first question here is, Hollyland Lark 150, Saramonic Blink 500, they're about the same price. Which one do I choose? Rode Wireless Go 2, no questions. Here's why. Even though the Lark and the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro give you a charging case and the lavalier mics and the extra cables that basically you would have to pay extra for on the Rode Wireless Go, I still say that doesn't matter at all. The Hollyland Lark is coming in at, I think, $330. This one, if you want to buy 2 lavalier mics at about $20 a piece, you're basically almost there. And so that argument of having a lavalier mic, I don't think is a thing. The charging case is nice, but it has some caveats with both of them having, they're guilty of this. They were so close and then they kind of messed up. So Hollyland Lark 150. The transmitter can only last for 4 hours. The receiver can last 7 hours. You can charge it in a case, sure, but if you want to use a USB battery bank, you can't because there is no USB ports for you to do so. So that's already out of the running. Saramonic Blink 500 Pro doesn't have this problem, but their problem lies in the fact that the transmitter and receiver have a USB micro when the world has changed to USB-C. Now, you can kind of sort of argue that it doesn't matter because at least you can still do it, but the argument completely goes out the window because of one specific feature in the Rode Wireless Go 2 that basically destroys those two out of the gate. The internal recording. That's literally it. Those two systems, the Lark and the Blink, if those get cut out for whatever reason, because there's extra Wi-Fi here, there's something there or what have you, they're done. There's no way for you to recover that audio.
but the Rode Wireless Go 2, you can. And the sound inside the internal recording is actually really good. If you looked at the numbers on the internal recording versus the Tascam recording, what was very interesting was that the Tascam recording required a post gain of plus 14. The internal recording, compressed and uncompressed, only needed either plus 6 or plus 8. What does that actually mean? That means the signal to noise ratio of your voice and the noise floor is much better in the internal recording than my cheap Tascam DR40. You're getting such a good internal recording already, and the audio drift really isn't there. So when it comes down to it, that one feature alone already wipes Lark and the Blink out of the running. Even if it's going to cost you like another extra $100 to get the lavalier mics you do want, that safety track is the thing, okay? So let's put point number 1 out of the way. Point number 2, if you're a beginner, should you get this wireless audio kit? Yes. For the first time ever, I'm saying yes to something that's a little bit more expensive, but hear me out. So I'm going to assume you've already watched my Think Critically series up here. If you haven't, check out this title card right here, because you've identified that the wireless audio kit is what you need. A shotgun mic is not what you need for what you're doing 95% of the time. You've identified that, but you don't have enough money. Save. Save, save, save. I don't know what you need to do. Mow lawns, shovel snow. You need to do something and get yourself to that $300 some or $350 if you need lavalier mics. Get yourself up there, save it, and buy this. The reason I'm saying that is because of number 3, firmware updates from Rode. And why them doing this is going to basically make them completely relevant for years to come. The Rode Wireless Go Generation 1 was relevant for 2 years until this thing came around and beat them, because out of all the sounds that you get, the Rode Wireless Go was still the overall best winner. But if you wanted to go into the 2 transmitters to 1 receiver side, that's where the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro and the Hollyland Lark 150 kind of come into play. But firmware updates. Hardware ability into consideration. If the hardware is good enough, then the firmware that I'm about to suggest to Rode could make them just basically destroy the competition. So Rode, if you're listening to this, I don't know if you're thinking about this already, but here are my suggestions of potential firmware for you to give us in the long run that's going to make your product basically the end-all be-all for a while in this price point. So here's number 1, 32-bit float. Let's be honest. We know the capabilities of it. We've seen it in the Zoom F2 and the Tentacle Sync, even though their sound is a little bit off in the noise floor. And it's something that some people want. Now, I don't personally need it all the time because I'm already, gain staging everything up. But there are some people that might need it, like wedding videographers or maybe documentary filmmakers, where they just don't know what's going to actually happen. So they need something like 32-bit float. Assuming the hardware is capable, that's an easy one. I'm assuming we would probably lose a good amount of battery life. So instead of 6.5 hours, maybe we're down to 6 now. If you can keep it to 6 hours with 32-bit flow, that would be amazing. For me personally, if you can even get it like at 5.5 hours, I'd still like it just because it's there. I can use it, or I can choose not to and just go uncompressed, compressed, or I can just turn it off all the way and get 7 hours. So that's the first firmware update. I'm going to kind of guess that you can't do 32-bit float. Here's the second one, EQs. Because right now the Rode Wireless Go 2 sounds different than the Rode Wireless Go 1. The 1 had a more flat response, and this one seems to have a little bit more bass. So I'm going to guess that maybe because maybe some people were saying, hey, I don't want the flat response. I don't want to EQ everything on my own. I want something that just sounds good out of the gate in a general aspect. Now, Curtis Judd, I'm really sorry to use you as an example, but Curtis Judd talks about how his voice has more sibilance, and depending on the microphone or depending on the wireless audio kit,
and how it's EQ'd internally naturally, it could wreak havoc on his own voice. So he usually has to do a couple things to kind of turn it down. So maybe we have some pre-EQs to be like, hey, if you have more sibilance in your voice, use this one. Or if you want a flat response, use this one. Or maybe you have too much bass in your voice, then use this one. So you have some presets. But Rode, what if you actually went a step further? What if you allowed us to do custom EQs? Maybe like a 30 band equalizer or one of the para ones. I can't remember what it's called, but para something. Guys, first of all, you need to go watch Curtis Judd's video right up here where he tells you how to find certain frequencies in your voice, how to cancel them out and get the best sound possible. But Rode, if you allow us to do that in the Rode Central app and then inject that EQ over into the receiver or the transmitter or however you got to do it. And maybe, I don't know, you do something where we can actually flip between the EQs that we want, but for the sake of argument, let's just say you allow us to custom inject an EQ. Rode and filmmakers, at this point in time, you've just programmed your microphone to specifically EQ to your voice, which means you don't actually have to do it in post. It's already there. And then you add all the magic sauce that Rode already does to get you the best sounding sound quality possible, you're good to go. That's going to make this thing so versatile depending on who it is you're putting it onto. Like narrative filmmakers, you could literally do some tests ahead of time to try to figure out where the sweet spots of your actor or actress's voice is, get it done ahead of time, record it that way, maybe do a couple things that you might need to do later, but at least you're starting with a good starting point. Rode, if that's a possibility, please, because I would love that to happen. The last one is for probably professionals. I'm going to be speaking out of turn here or out of line because I don't actually know what you guys need, but I'm going to assume something like this. You're a professional worker. You don't want to necessarily spend like another $3,000 on a wireless kit. You literally want a Rode Wireless Go for those off moments where you need an extra channel of something. But you're not a fan of Rode doing all this audio processing for you. You actually just want to work with the raw audio itself. So Rode, what if you had, I guess, a professional mode? Basically, you're turning off all the noise canceling, the everything, and assuming the capsule sounds good natively. What if you did that? So that professionals who want to process the audio can. And maybe, again, that whole 32-bit float internal thing, or maybe you can up the bit rates even more. I don't really know what professionals want to be using in. I'm just kind of used to the idea of 24-bit and 48 kilohertz. But what if you were able to turn all that off just for them? Then you're making everyone happy, from beginners to intermediates, advanced, and up to the pro levels where they just want something cheap, wireless, performs well, and they could just get that extra audio channel. I don't know. That might be something to think about. Those are the only 3 firmware updates that I can think about right now. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there any other firmware update ideas that you would want to see? Go ahead and leave it down below so Rode can see all of it and maybe they can implement it later on. But guys, those are my 3 reasons and points of why the Rode Wireless Go 2 basically is the audio kit you should be getting in 2021 and possibly for many years to come. And hey, that is it for this week, everybody. If this video has made all the influence in your purchasing decisions, I would truly appreciate it if you check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you, just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.